Everybody was good. Welcome back to our Final Fantasy 14 video. You probably searched this up in a video trying to look at a machinist guide or whatever. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. This is not going to be an in-depth guide. It's going to be, I'm going to be covering just the core fundamentals of the skills, what it feels like to play the machinist, and as well as, you know, using the robot and using the guns, also your flamethrowers and stuff like that. Pretty quick, just to give you guys a general idea of like if you want to learn how to pick up this class or you want this to be your main. But I also want to, I did cover a level 80 or max level bard guide not too long ago, and it's pretty much, it follows the same format. I'm gonna have some b-roll playing in the background, max level content. It's gonna be Tower of Paradigm, so it's the third instance for the Near Alliance raid. So just in case spoilers don't want to see it, just listen to my voice or whatever. I'm gonna be going over the core fundamentals of like the class itself, so like a lot of like what the gauges do, what's your core rotation and what to look out for as you're playing it and stuff. And lastly, it's gonna be footage of me doing the rotation that's recommended by the Balance Discord by some hardcore raiders, some sweaty Final Fantasy 14 players, and so that all the rotations, the strategies and stuff are completely derived from that. Without further ado, let's get into the b-roll and I'll start going over what it feels like to actually play the class and stuff. All right, so going into it, hope you guys do enjoy the b-roll of my run of tower and stuff. Don't worry, this is just so far in advance if you haven't seen this type of stuff. Hopefully it's spoiler free for you. So how does Machinist feel? This is the big boy damage guy for the ranged physical DPS. He's supposed to be the carry for these types of jobs. I mean, there's only 3 of them, Dancer guy and my other main Bard. He lives for the ginormous big crits that he gets from his attacks using a giant drill, like from Gurren Lagann, out of some anime, but obviously from Final Fantasy games. You also get really hot and overheated and doing fast attacks while weaving in a lot of off global cooldowns or OGCDs. You are spamming your off globals and all that stuff into the boss or into whoever you're fighting. This job, in my opinion, is pretty busy, but it also feels busy because you are doing a lot during your peak up times and also your regular rotations. In addition, you also get to summon your own Gundam mech homie that skits into battle. It literally punches them and explodes and does all that stuff. It's pretty cool. Now, you do have one utility ability, and that is Tactician. It's a move shared by other ranged physical DPSs that reduces about 10% of damage. I think Shield Samba is for the Dancer, and Troubadour, the flute thing, is for the Bard. But mainly, this job, you shoot things. You have a gun, and you also have a bunch of technologies. You have a drill, flamethrower, all that stuff. You get hot, and you get big-ass crit damage numbers, and it really feels really crispy when you do hit those. You can also have the complete freedom, like with other ranged DPS jobs, to move around during your entire rotation, which is super nice. One thing that I have to say that I felt during this and like playing this job for a while is it can feel really good, or other times it can feel really clunky because it is pretty ping dependent. I'm playing from Australia and on the NA servers on Primal. At times this job feels not really that great, but all the times when I hit 5 heat blasts or when I hit the rotation right, weaving actually goes through, it feels really good. Because you're weaving off globals when you have your peak uptime, you have a 1.5 second global cooldown while you're overheated. You have to spam it or it won't go through. Sometimes it might, but sometimes it cannot go through at all. And adding RNG with something that you cannot really control kind of doesn't feel that great, especially when you kind of depend, your DPS is so variable with the server ticks and the ping. Other than that, this job feels pretty crisp. Plus you do heaps of flips while shooting and you have a massive flamethrower. It's just badass. Okay, right now I'm going to spend a bit of time to show you some of the key abilities with some images and all that stuff that you'll be using at max level. Again, this isn't going to be a super in-depth guide. It's just to give you a decent idea, again, what you will be doing in your regular rotation and stuff. So this job has 2 gauges, is your heat gauge, and the bottom is your battery to summon your mech to fight with you for a certain amount of time. And the time is based on how much this battery gauge is filled up. Make sure you use hypercharge or you use the button to summon the mech, and please do not let it cap at all. The cap is 100. Do not let it do that, or else you'll feel pain. You'll feel physical pain when it does and you're doing skills and they're going past 100. So I guess I'll go over a little bit of hypercharge. When you're overheated, it lets you use heat blast or auto crossbow, and actually makes your global cooldown not 2.5 but also 1.5 whenever you spam these abilities, and your aim is to hit 5 of these within this window. Feels really fast. Like you have to spam this stuff. I guess to fill up both of your gauges, you have moves and rotations that give you resources for these. The 1-2-3 combo in the form of split shot, slug shot, and clean shot will add about 5 heat, along with a button that gives you immediately 50. You press a button on your iPad or console, whatever. On the other hand, you have not that many skills that gives you a lot of battery, but you do have 1 or 2 skills that give you a lot of it. So the third of your 1-2-3 combo, which is going to be clean shot, it gives you about 10, and air anchor, which is a 700 potency big boy move, gives you about 20. No, I mean, not about. It gives you 20. I could say that. Now I went over a bit of the gauges. I'll shortly go over the AOEs because it's pretty simple. You just spam a lot of stuff. You just go ahead and use spread shot over and over again, which gives you heat, about 5 per rotation. You get hot, press overcharge, and spam auto crossbow into your pool while it's off cooldown, while weaving in another off global cooldown called Ricochet. Off cooldown, you use Bio Blaster along with Reassemble, which is a crit. It gives you a Kono AOE that applies dot damages to the peoples that you're attacking. And lastly, you can use Flamethrower, the most badass ability there. This is the only skill that you have that you cannot move throughout its duration of 10 seconds, or you're going to cancel it. But fun fact a little bit, I have a little bit of a graph here that I'm showing on the screen right now. It actually does just as much damage as spamming auto crossbow like those 5 times while you're overcharged. Initially, there's a bit of a difference, but as it goes on throughout the pull, it actually does comparatively the same amount of damage. So just use Flamethrower. Of course, unlucky if you hit the move. It looks pretty cool just to burn your enemies to a crisp. Now that the AOEs are out of the way, here comes the fun stuff with the single target rotations. Now, first, let me just tell you, you live for the big damages. Just keep that in mind. You're the one who's got to focus on your rotation while avoiding the AOEs. We're not black mages. Just kidding. I know how hard it is to play black mage. But you have 2 big, hard-hitting, juicy skills, Drill and Anchor. These skills have 700 potency. They're big boys. You use Drill whenever it is off of cooldown, as it's coming off and whatever. And whenever it's possible, use the skill Reassemble. So basically what it is, you pull out a wrench out of your ass, and the next global cooldown is a guaranteed crit. The rule is that you try to keep Air Anchor within 2 or 3 global cooldowns away from Drill. I know it's kind of hard. Drill has a shorter cooldown. Air Anchor has a longer one. Just keep using them off of cooldown, you'll be okay. Another hard-hitting move and is called Wildfire. It's a mine that you toss on the enemy, and each skill you use while it's on the enemy, it gets stronger. Max potency is 1200. That's big damage. Now this is where a lot of the double weaving or the weaving of off global cooldowns will come into play. Is your Gauss round and Ricochet. So you have max charge of 3 of these to spam into the person. Just to bear in mind, this is yet another skill you can't overcap. And now what do I mean by that? I already talked about hypercharge and what it does with your job gauge, but this is where the off global cooldowns and Wildfire all come together, and this is the most important part when you're playing this class. Is when you get hot and overheated, you get access to the 1.5 second global cooldown that I mentioned with Heat Blast. So this is where you'll feel all the ping and stuff like that. With every shot, you knock off 15 seconds of the cooldown of both Gauss round and Ricochet per use. So that's why you can't really overcap, because there's 3 charges each. Just try to make sure you don't do it or you'll feel pain. So every time you use Heat Blast, you'll weave either Gauss round and Ricochet before the next one. Do not double weave, just single weave. So if you haven't really made the connection yet, your rotation should always include using Wildfire while also being overheated, because you can rack up to that max potency. It can be quite tough, but I'm sure you can do it. I have high ping and it still feels pretty good, and I can still do it quite consistently. So I have faith that you can too. Now next, when do you summon your mecha? So that's actually a complex, loaded question, and it depends how sweaty you actually want to be. What I mean by that, I'll link in the description down below a document that's pulled all from Balance. This is where all the rotation stuff I'm talking about is from Balance Discord. It's a group of high-end raiders and high-end optimal players that's very, very sweaty, and you can actually look at the graphs, like when to use it and all that stuff. But basically, I always try to use it, and you'll see in this B-roll that I always try to use it as soon as I hit 50, just because it is an alliance raid, and it's not a single pull like in a Savage raid or something like that. For me, when I'm in those instances, I always try to use it at 80 battery, because the damage / duration is the biggest jump from 50 when you're able to use it into 80. 80 to 100, not so much, but the potency is big because it auto attacks and attacks with you. But honestly, the rule of thumb that I always like to tell you guys, or I want to tell you guys in this video, is don't ever overcap on it, and you'll just be doing solid DPS. You can summon it as soon as you get it, or you can wait till 80 to get that ultimate DPS time as well. The only reason why it gets a bit more sweaty, like I said before, is because of the timing with the raid buffs. Depends on the team composition that you're running with. So that's the only reason. But this is not so in depth, so I won't get into all this sweat that's in the Discord, but I'll link it down below if you guys really want to see it and are curious about it. But anyways, just summon your mech, don't overcap, and just keep on going. So like now, after you racked up all that damage with your Wildfire, Drill, Anchor, Mecha, and all that stuff is on cooldown, all I have to do next is just to manage your heat and battery gauge. Overheat as soon as you get it at 50 or whatever, depending on your 1, 2, 3. Just do your 1, 2, 3 combo, spam Drill off of the cooldown, and pair it with your crit ability. It'll always work out nicely that you'll be able to get a couple of drills in, and then you'll be able to reassemble, get that sweet crit going over 100k, which is quite nice. And also just do air anchor off of cooldown as well. And yeah, so that's pretty much Machinist, the gun guy, and all the mechs and stuff like that in a nutshell. That's how you do the big damages for the ranged DPS. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and show off 2 rotations that are from the balance Discord on a balance dummy that I personally use. And so one of them is like a medium-ish ping rotation that's pretty consistent and stuff like that. And the second one is a high ping rotation that I do when I'm like a bit more lazier or my connection is not that great that day. So yeah, jump to the training dummy. With hitting the practice dummy with my rotation as hard as I could, that brings us to the end of the video. I just want to say thank you guys all to making it to this part and, you know, watching it all the way through. And hopefully this overview of the job actually gave you a bit of direction of whether or not to main the class, to play it, or just like to pick it up and see how it plays out and everything. This and the bar job I use interchangeably, like I said before, in the harder contents in the game, savages, raids, all that stuff, and I just have a great time. No matter if the ping affects my machinist job, it's still a lot of fun to just play and shoot guns, summon a mech, and all that stuff. And hopefully I converted you guys to pick up the range physical DPS jobs, just because I feel like there's a little bit of a scarcity in the community of us. But hey, we're still here. All right, now I do want to open up the floor in the comment section down below. I have a link to all of the in-depth information and all that stuff. If you guys want to be sweaty, it's all in that down below from the balance Discord and everything like that. But also, if I missed anything, please just comment down below, help the machinist mans out, upvote it so people can see, and hopefully we can really convert some more people using the mechs and stuff. Before the video ends, I just do want to give a quick shout out to my lovely Patrons, especially Daddy Senpai, Sincrotic, and Tarundi. Daddy Senpai, the big boy, and Sincrotic and Tarundi is the oracles of light. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support the channel and everything. And yeah, if you all enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like. It really helps the channel out. Also subscribe for more Final Fantasy 14 content or content in general. I'll be here. Eventually I'll do other content. I have no idea. I might do like a heart tier list, if you know what I mean. But without further ado, I'm gonna head on out of here, and I hope to see you guys on the next video. Peace out.